What's up, Gearholics? This is Zach here, and I'm coming to you guys for another review. This is going to be a review over the Rat Model 2 by Ontario Knife Company. It's a folder, obviously, if you guys couldn't already tell that. And basically, what I would categorize this knife as being an outdoor hiking, camping knife. Even fishing knife, really. It's a decent fishing knife. The actual specs on the actual knife, I'll go ahead and give you guys that right now. The overall length of the knife is 7 inches. That is from top to bottom. And then the blade length is 3 inches, but the cutting surface is only 2.75, which isn't bad. I'll kind of get to that in a little bit of what I think they could do a little bit better about that cutting surface. But anyways. The thickness of the blade is 0.09, and then it's made out of AUS 8 steel, or AUS 8 stainless steel, or AUS 8 steel, and it's got a hardness of 58 to 60 on the HRC, and it's obviously a drop point design, or drop point blade style. And it's a flat ground, so it's got a flat grind that's all the way from the top down to the bottom, and then with the secondary micro bevel right there, all on the edge. And I got the satin finish with black nylon 6 handles, and that works. I think these work okay. They leave a little bit to be adjusted, but they're fine. Let's see. The actual handle length is 4.1 inches, which is generous for somebody with large hands. It fits my hands just fine. The way I put my hands on the knife, it fits my hand just fine. Actually, it leaves a little bit of room up here if you wanted to bump your hand up a little bit to do some closer tasks for cutting. I know that the handles come in different colors. I've seen a pink model, and then I've also seen coyote brown model, and those may not be as easy to find as the black versions in the handle colors, and I think that would be kind of a wise choice if they were to make more handle colors for these, or even make accessories where you could buy the handle colors and install them onto the knives and kind of accessorize your knife, or if they sold many colors like digital camo or whatever, whatever. So I think that would be kind of cool. I added a lanyard onto mine just because I like to have something a little extra to grab onto if I have to back off the knife to do a little bit of chopping or something, and to slip my pinky into if I have to do anything with wet environment or sweaty hands. The overall weight of the actual knife is 2.75 ounces, and that's pretty good. That's not bad at all. And for the weight and how long it is, the 7 inches, and how much it weighs, it's actually a really decent. It's really a decent weight, for the knife and for what you're carrying. Really, when I slip it in my pocket, I don't even really know that it's there. Even with the weight that it is, I do feel like they could reduce the weight a little bit by drilling out these stainless steel liners and skeletonizing them, which I attempted in the past but didn't have the right drill bits. So I just forego really wanting to modify this knife, just because I'm worried that I would ruin the internal structure. But I think it would be wise of them to do that to this knife, and it would really vastly improve the weight of this knife, even by the smallest margin, which would make it that much cooler. It wouldn't ruin the structural integrity of the actual knife, or at least in my opinion. It is a liner lock, and I do feel that the locking mechanism is a little bit thin. The lock bar, I feel like, is a little thin for what it is, and I feel as if it needs to be thicker, but that would also add weight, and if we're talking about weight reduction, there are pros and cons to a lot of it, but it functions for what it is, and what it does. Obviously, it's not the strongest lockup. Not the strongest liner lock that I've seen, but it works fine, and it locks up tight too. It locks up pretty decent. There's no play in the blade up or down, and it's nice because you can kind of adjust it. It's got a adjuster pin, so you can adjust it, and as far as the lineup in the actual knife, mine is very well centered. and that's nice. Let's see. It's obviously made in Taiwan, so quality control. They have a lot of quality control over there, and I've have a couple other Taiwanese made or produced knives, and they're not that bad. It's all about quality control. If you can control the product and make sure that you're putting out a decent product that's reliable, then it won't matter if it's made in Taiwan. It won't matter if it's made in Vietnam. It won't matter if it's made in any kind of foreign country, as long as you can control that. And Spyderco knows that. Ontario is obviously caught onto that, and other companies such as Gerber and other people are going to overseas production knives. I don't think this is a bad thing. I mean, obviously, I would obviously want a U.S. made knife over a Chinese produced knife, just because I prefer it. But that's just my personal preference. But with what you're getting in the companies that are producing these knives, it's pretty good. It's not bad. The pocket clip on the actual knife is really nice. It is a little bit oversized for my taste, but it's not bad. It comes more than halfway down the actual knife, and I feel like that is just overly dramatic for this, and it's so wide. Look how wide that clip is for that knife. That knife clip could be reduced a little bit thinner and still be as thick and still be as effective as it needs to be. I did hear that they actually took the knife, the model, the Rat Model 1, and they shrunk it down 20%, and that's how they got this knife. And this Model 2 is 20%, supposedly 20% smaller than that knife, which is nice, but at the same time, I feel like they literally shrunk the entire knife down without even really looking at, the pros and cons of what would happen if you shrank a knife. Would it still be as effective? Would it still be as useful? The lanyard hole is too small. I could barely fit a piece of 550 cord through it. I had to specifically melt down this paracord and form a little thing so I could slip it through because it was so small. And they should have widened that a little bit, knowing that people are going to slip paracord through it. It was not designed to have paracord in it. I forced paracord in there, so you can put paracord in there. It just, it's obviously not big enough. The pocket clip is, I feel like, oversized and a little bit excessive for such a thin, smaller knife. The reason why I never owned a Rat Model 1, and the reason why I didn't in the first place was because I felt like it was too big and too heavy. And honestly, this is the reason why I bought this was because it was a smaller version. It was more EDC, everyday carry, accessible, and that fits what I do, and that fits who I am and what I use knives for. I don't usually carry around large hunting folder knives or large knives for tactical purposes. I never feel threatened that much that I need to use only a knife to protect myself. But I do like having knives that I can depend on, that I could potentially force into that role if I needed to. And this knife, I feel like, fits that role perfectly, not only as a camp knife, but also the tactical role. If you had to deploy it and use it to attack someone, it does have perfect a perfect angle grind on the actual blade itself, and I feel like it functions very well for a multi-utility knife. I really like that it's just a plain blade. It's flat ground, because I do not like partially serrated blades. I think that it's unnecessary unless you're using it to cut a lot of cord or a lot of rope every single day. I don't feel like it's necessary to put on every single knife, and I think they should have the option of if you want it or not. And most knives do, especially Ontario. They know the rat model knives. They all have those options if you can, plain or partially serrated. It's just nice, and I obviously like this one a lot better. I know that other models come with the cheap black coating that peels off. Unfortunately, the satin finish does come with the same style clip. It's covered in that really cheap coating that does start coming off after a while, and you can obviously see that it started to rub off this clip, which is fine. It doesn't really bother me all that much. Eventually I might just sand it down and just make it, the same color as the satin finish, just to kind of finish it out. But for now, it doesn't really bother me at all. That's just one of those things, though, you got to take with a grain of sand when you're buying a overseas produced knife. Let's see. The AUS8 blade actually does really well. I've taken it into a couple of water environments and or high moisture content environments, and it does really good. I haven't really found any rust at all on this blade, particularly this blade. And I think that has to do with the buffing process that they put the knife through. It's very, very smooth finish. I mean, it's so slick. The blade is so slick when you rub your fingers over it. They did an excellent job of buffing out that blade and making it look absolutely beautiful. And I think that helps a lot with preventing rust from forming onto the blade. So that was really smart, and thumbs up Ontario for really thinking through that. And on top of that, a nice coat of oil also helps. And then, just constantly, if you dry it on a regular basis, if you go into a wet environment and you dry it, obviously it's going to help prevent any oxidization from building up on the blade. But I haven't had any problems with AUS8, AUS8 steel at all in wet environments. Some guys say that it sucks, but I haven't seen anything that would change my opinion. That being said, about the only other nitpick is the length of the blade. So the whole length of the blade is actually 3 inches, but it terminates right up here, at the 2.75 inch mark. That's fine, and that's a lot of blade to have. I just wish they would have carried the grind back right to the edge of my finger right there, and just finished off the grind right there. I feel like that would have been a lot smarter. Obviously that would change this little thumb stud and all that. And I mean, I just feel like you could have added a little bit more blade for your buck. And then maybe another thing about the 20% decrease in the size was, this fits my finger really well, but I wish it was scooted up a little bit closer to the blade, so that way I wouldn't have to I wouldn't have to worry so much about being way back here to use my knife. And I find myself a lot of the times I bump my fingers up, and I'll bump my index finger up onto the actual part of the blade right here and use it for carving. And that's kind of dangerous, because if I slip, I could slice open my finger and really have a bad day. So that may be something that they may think about in the future when they're reducing knife sizes, is make sure that you clear or even figure something out to do with this extra gap of space. Because I feel like, I don't know if that was the intended purpose for that, but if you are going to make that the intended purpose, you need to make sure that there's jimping there or something to keep yourself from slipping up onto the blade. That's just something I noticed with this. The deployment of this is really nice too. It comes out fast, and it's really strong, and it locks up tight. And I've had no problems with adjusting it and making it right where I want it, where it deploys perfectly every single time. And honestly, I would say it's for a flipping blade, for a flipper, a manual flipper, it is really fast and lightning fast, just like the Big Brother. So, but anyways, that's my review on the Ontario Rat model, Folder Model 2. God, those names. The rat knife, the folder, it's really great. I honestly feel like everybody should get it. It fits many, many, many roles. It's very resistant to abuse, and it's a very good blade. Gosh, can't talk today. So, anyways, that's all I got to say for now. And you guys be safe out there, and don't cut yourself. All right, later.